The Second Epistle to the Corinthians, Chapter 3, Lesson 4. In studying this chapter, 1. To learn how one becomes an epistle of Christ. 2. To see the contrast between the Old and New Covenants. And 3. To appreciate the role of the Spirit in the New Covenant and in producing our transformation. Having just begun vindicating his ministry as an apostle of Jesus Christ, Paul reminds the Corinthians that he really needs no letter of accreditation, for they are his epistles of commendation. Through his ministry, in which he had written upon their hearts with the Spirit of the living God, they themselves have become an epistle of Christ. 2 Corinthians 3, 1-3. Are we beginning again to commend ourselves? Or do we need, as do some, letters of commendation to you or from you? You are our letter, written in our hearts, known and read by all men, being revealed that you are a letter of Christ, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not in tablets of stone, but in tablets that are hearts of flesh. This he says with full realization that it is God who has made him sufficient as a minister of the new covenant, which is a ministry of the Spirit who gives life. 2 Corinthians 3, 4-6. Such confidence we have through Christ toward God, not that we are sufficient of ourselves to account anything as from ourselves, but our sufficiency is from God, who also made us sufficient as servants of a new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. Paul then proceeds to contrast the new covenant with the old covenant, to illustrate the glorious nature of his ministry. With Exodus 34, 29-35 as his reference, he equates the glory of the old covenant with the glory on Moses' face that was temporary. 2 Corinthians 3:7. But if the service of death, written engraved on stones, came with glory, so that the children of Israel could not look steadfastly on the face of Moses for the glory on his face, which was passing away. But if the old covenant, described as one of death and condemnation, had glory, then how much more glorious is the new covenant, a ministry of the Spirit and of righteousness, which is not passing away. 2 Corinthians 3, 8-11. Won't service of the Spirit be with much more glory? For if the service of condemnation has glory, the service of righteousness exceeds much more in glory. For most assuredly that which has been made glorious has not been made glorious in this respect, by reason of the glory that surpasses. For if that which passes away was with glory, much more that which remains is in glory. Paul then declares that those who listen only to the Old Testament still have a veil on their hearts. 2 Corinthians 3, 12-15. Having therefore such a hope, we use great boldness of speech, and not as Moses, who put a veil on his face, that the children of Israel wouldn't look steadfastly on the end of that which was passing away. But their minds were hardened. For until this very day at the reading of the Old Covenant, the same veil remains, because in Christ it passes away. But to this day when Moses is read, a veil lies on their heart. But when we turn to the Lord, whom Paul equates with the Spirit, the veil is taken away and there is liberty. Also by beholding the glory of the Lord with unveiled face, we are being transformed into the same glorious image by the Spirit of the Lord. 2 Corinthians 3, 16-18. But whenever one turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. Now the Lord is a Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. But we all, with the unveiled face beholding, as in a mirror, the glory of the Lord, are transformed into the same image from glory to glory, even as from the Lord, the Spirit. The Second Epistle to the Corinthians, Chapter 3, Lesson 4, the end.